Hey there guys, I just saw Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and man, this movie is freaking awesome. In today's video, I'm gonna get into the good, the bad, and the spoilers. I'm gonna give this movie my review first, and towards the end of the video, we're gonna dive into the deep MFing spoiler discussion. So feel free to comment below, guys, what are your MFing thoughts? If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can become part of the MF army. And without further ado, let's jump into the review. After a year and a half of his last adventure into the Spider-Verse, we find our hero, Miles Morales, dealing with typical teenager problems and his Spidey work-life balance. After reuniting with Gwen Stacy, Miles is catapulted across the multiverse where he encounters a team of spider people charged with protecting its very existence. However, when the heroes clash on how to handle a new threat, Miles finds himself pitted against the other spiders. He must soon redefine what it means to be a hero so he can save the people he loves most. So let's start off with the visuals of this movie. Whenever Miles travels to another universe, the animation style changes to fit that spider person. It really pushes the boundaries in terms of what we can do with visuals. For example, Gwen's world is really neon and pastel, and it really kind of drowns out the whole scene. It's very colorful, but there's also something very, very sad about it. I really liked India's Spider-Man's world too. Like, his visuals was really interesting because he was surrounded by buildings that were thousands of feet tall, and it was like a Spider-Man's dream playground. I also really liked the characters' different designs. Like, Gwen and Miles had a really sleek, athletic look, whereas Miguel O'Hara had more of like a bigger upper body, kind of like a bodybuilder. There's even one villain in the movie that kind of had like a sketchy, Renaissance-looking art style, and it was really cool. It looked like one of Leonardo da Vinci's sketches. The big surprise for me was the storyline. From the trailer, you can see Miles dealing with all these internal struggles that other Spider-Man deal with. Should I keep deceiving everyone I love? Is this job worth it? You know, he's always running late and he's struggling to be normal and he's acting so strange around his friends and family. And you know, he's trying to live his life the best he can, but as soon as the spider senses start tingling, he's got to drop everything that he's doing and jump off the building and go save the city. We're given so much more time to explore Gwen Stacy's backstory that I would say this movie is 50% a Gwen Stacy movie. I found it very interesting that the first 10 minutes of the movie were basically Gwen giving the recap of the last movie, and also we get to learn more about her backstory on how she was in a band, she was a drummer, and she had a really good relationship with her father, but there was a fallout and we get to explore that. Much like the last movie, the composer makes every scene unique and bursts with flavor. There's just so many big action scenes that the music adds such fun and excitement, especially that multiverse chase scene where Miguel is running after Miles. It just really turns up the energy and really gets the blood rushing. The other thing I really like about this movie is that it deconstructs the typical Spider-Man story tropes that we've seen a dozen times. Like in every other Spider-Man movie, something happens to one of his family members and it builds his persona. You know, like where would Peter Parker be if it wasn't for Uncle Ben? Like a lot of times, Spider-Man is the cause or the reason the villains are created. But in this movie, they take those Spider-Man tropes and kind of flip it on its head, and it kind of demonstrates how Miles' story is very unique. Like, it's very separate from Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy's storyline. And you know, that's another reason why this movie is so great, is because it's something different that you haven't seen before. Like, Miles does not have to follow in Peter Parker's footsteps or even Gwen's footsteps. But again, that's what makes this story so special, is that Miles is faced with certain unique dilemmas that Peter Parker and the other characters have never faced before. Now let's get into the negatives of the movie. Some people are going to have a really hard time getting to the end of this movie because it's 2 hours and 12 minutes long. My third son did fall asleep, but it's his own damn fault because he brought a blanket to the movie. That's why I sneak his ass in, because I already know him. And also, Gwen started getting on my freaking nerves. As if teenage girls aren't complicated enough already, she starts to frustrate me on screen. And there is a lot going on in this movie. It is very complicated. So if you are bringing somebody like a child or a spicy senorita who's going to have 100 questions, just be prepared and have some patience. God is watching. And good luck to all you people who have fidgety little kids. Thank God mine are little angels. But at the end of the day, I had a great time with this movie. I wish it was 5 hours long. I could spend all day in this Spidey multiverse learning about all the characters, pointing out all the fun cameos, and I just had a freaking blast with this movie. And that's why I'm gonna give Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse,
no, don't do it,
an A+. Or a 95 if you're a numbers guy. Alright guys, so here we go. This is your chance to click away right now. If you haven't seen Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, we're about to get into our spoiler discussion. So here we go guys. 3, 2, 1, let's go. I really liked how in this movie they explored Gwen's backstory, and it was really unique and interesting to see that they made Peter become the lizard. I thought that was really cool and something I never expected. I really liked how they showed Captain Stacy hell-bent on finding Peter Parker's killer. It's just funny to see like in another universe, the media and the cops are still against Spider-Man, or in this case, Spider-Gwen. And then she reveals her identity to her father, thinking that, it's going to be their secret. Everything's going to be okay and forgiven. But once again, this movie subverts our expectations. And he's like, you're under arrest. Like, you have the right to remain silent. And it's like, damn, that's a kick in the balls. I was really surprised that we spent so much time in Miles's world, with his mom and his dad and his family. But one of the things that's commonly overlooked is how lonely it could be to be Spider-Man. That's why all the Spider-Men have their special little thinking place, whether it's a Chrysler building or the Empire State Building. It's very lonely. You can see that Miles really misses Gwen. I mean, obviously he had like a little crush on her, but maybe she was the only person that he could really identify with as a teenage spider person. And even after a year and a half, everything's changed. Gwen is on the run. Peter B. Parker has a little daughter now, and Miles went from being a silly little kid to a maturing young adult. Let's talk about the villain, the Spot. Miles calls him the villain of the week, and he gets super offended by this. The first scene we see the Spot, he's kind of robbing an ATM in a convenience store, and he's trying to drink some milk, and he can't really control his powers. And we also learn that he has a unique connection to Miles, being that in the first Spider-Man movie, he's the guy that Miles threw the bagel at and hit him. He's also the scientist that actually brought in the spider labeled number 42, the one that bit Miles. And it turns out that spider was not meant for Miles. It was supposed to bite somebody else in another universe. Now the Spot doesn't have a face. He's lost his job. He's lost his family. And he's super pissed at Miles. And it's just funny to see him going from being like a villain of the week to becoming the big bad of a whole franchise. And he kind of figures out that he can kind of suck himself into his own black hole and transfer over to different universes. I also really like Spider-Punk Hobie Brown. One of the cool things about Hobie Brown was that his art style kept changing over and over again. He never could really sit still in his own animation style. And I thought that was a really smart choice because it demonstrates that he doesn't have the same set of rules. He craves freedom and he's a rebel and he's just a huge badass. Obviously, he has a really cool guitar and even his mask has like a little spiky mohawk thing going on. It's super punk. Easily the coolest, most radical spider, and he never felt right being part of the Spider Society. He eventually takes Miles aside and he builds his own multiverse watch. We finally get Miguel O'Hara in the Spider-Man movie, and I was kind of iffy when in the trailer it showed that he's going to be one of the villains. Another version of him died in the multiverse, and he kind of replaced that Miguel, but ultimately it led to the whole universe being destroyed because he wasn't supposed to be there. He explains each Spider-Man undergoes these certain canon events in his lifetime, which kind of creates the multiverse. If that Spider-Man does not let these events happen, then the whole universe can experience a cataclysmic event just like his universe. One of the main canon events that every Spider-Man experiences is losing somebody they love and care for, like Uncle Ben or Captain Stacy. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, he lost Gwen and Uncle Ben. And in Tom Holland's Spider-Man, he lost Aunt May. It doesn't have to be Uncle Ben in every universe, but it does happen to every Spider-Man, and he goes through that trauma. And it's then revealed that Miles' dad becomes captain, and the same day he's sworn in, he gets killed. So all this is very serious stuff, and it's very, very mature. And I was surprised because I didn't think it was going to be this deep. So I thought it was crazy that Miles is just supposed to let this happen. Like all the other Spider people were kind of trapping him in so he doesn't run away. And I was like, that's some bullshit. Also led to one of the coolest chase scenes in all the superhero history. Let's talk about some of the main cameos that had me and my kids pointing at the screen, just gushing and nerding out. You got the spectacular Spider-Man, and man, I really liked this cartoon. And I know this cartoon didn't last very long. I think it had like 3 seasons, but it's a shame to see it go, but it was still a really good cartoon, and I'm happy to see that they put that Spider-Man in this movie. I think they brought in the original voice actor. I think his name is Josh Keane or something like that. Of course, my kids recognize the PlayStation Spider-Man, and it's cool how they kept him 3D, and he has a really unique look too, and I really like how they kept him in like the 3D area of the multiverse. Also, you had the Lego Spider-Man make an appearance, and I liked how they had clips of J. Jonah Jameson, voiced by J.K. Simmons, playing in the background. J.K. Simmons is always going to be the best Jonah Jameson. I love how he was in this movie as well. But by far, the biggest cameo for me was Donald Glover. For the last 10 years, fans have wanted Donald Glover to play Miles Morales, but unfortunately, so many years have gone by, and he's a little older now, but it turns out he was Uncle Aaron in Spider-Man Homecoming. They even confirmed it because he's wearing the full Prowler costume. He has the claws, the chest piece, it's kind of purple. So that kind of like validates we might get a live action Miles Morales one day. But those are just some of the cameos and Easter eggs that stuck out for me. I'm sure we're going to spot more and more the more times we watch this movie. So this movie ends on a big, huge cliffhanger, and it's going to go in multiple directions. I knew something was up when Miles went home and he told his mom that he's Spider-Man, and she's like, wait, who's Spider-Man? And then the big reveal is that universe's Miles Morales is the Prowler. And of course, you see Gwen form her new band, which is a band of spider people. You've got Spider Noir, you got Spider Punk, and a few others. And it's just going to be really exciting to see what they do with this next movie. I just hope they don't take 2 or 3 years. But anyway, that's going to do it for me, guys. This was a great movie, and it was probably the best superhero movie I've seen all year long. It was slightly better than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but you know, those two movies really stand out, and I'm excited to see The Flash coming up. Anyways, guys, I love you all so much. Take care of yourself, take care of your family. God bless, and we will see you on the next one.